Hello, welcome to the AquaStax Hour with me, Long Steve. It's 8 o'clock on a Tuesday evening, Tuesday the 14th of March. Right, let's get back to it. So last week I was playing around with flood fills, that's right. And I wanted to get my flood fill working so that it could determine where the blocks are on the grid. So when a block lands, it runs the flood fill routine that I coded last week and fills in the blocks that are specifically covered by, the grid cells in the grid that are covered by blocks that have landed. There we go. You can just about see it on the corner blocks, but you can't see the ones behind the square blocks, obviously, because they're disappearing. Right, I've got a few Windows cycling logs going on here at the moment. Let's just cover those up. Oh, hi folks, good to see you. Remus 432, yes. And did someone else join as well? Ah, maybe they joined and left again pretty quickly. Right, where was I? Let's just remove my blocks when they land so that I can see the flood fill results properly. So when a block lands, it will disappear, but the flood fill will color the grid cells in, hopefully, yes. There we go, well that one slid. Of course it doesn't take into account the corner blocks yet, or the angled blocks. That's my plan for today, is to get the flood fill to actually work out clusters of color, or clusters of blocks that are the same color. Right, let's put those back in. Right. I've been playing with the hat a little bit today, and the other week, oh, now I'm getting tweets appearing. Just close that. It came to my attention that I don't know when my hat flashes because I can't see it. But what I've done is I thought to myself, I need a mirror. So I've got my iPad and I've stuck it on a kind of a gooseneck bendy iPad holder, and it's hovering above my monitor here, and it's actually just acting as a mirror. It's not powered on using the camera or anything. It's just reflective enough that I can see the hat when things happen. And if I just use there we go. If I just use my hat control panel that's online, AquaStax.com, you can go and visit that if you like. Let's have a quick color wipe of pink. There we go. Yeah, I can see that in my iPad reflection, and let's clear that. And it's gone. Excellent. And okay. So back to the flood filling. So here's my example flood fill routine, which is, well, it contains a function. This is the recursive function that the flood fill is going to call itself multiple times. Here we go. So it's calling itself multiple times, going up, down, left, and right from the starting cell, which is the bottom left-hand one here. It's index 0 into my array. Right. Then it literally just checks. So each time it finds a grid position which is not empty, it adds that grid position to a list of cells, and then the render code runs over that list of cells and just creates draw nodes for each one, which is the pink blocks that you can see. So what I want to do now is I don't want to use this, well, I want to enhance this test here so that it checks the different types and the colors of the triangles. My chair, the gas in the cylinder, is subtly dropping me down by a few inches every moment. I'm going to just pull my chair back up. There we go. That's, am I still in view? Yes, I am still in my webcam. It does that every now and again. I don't think it's completely broken, but slowly and slowly dropping down. Right. So I had a lot. This was where I was a week ago, and my Tuesday evening streams tend to get a bit sort of hacky and random because I'm quite tired at the end of the day. What I tend to do is try some ideas out on a Tuesday evening, and then Thursday afternoon re-implement them properly, having fixed them up. Let's see, we're okay. We're still on the screen there. Yep. So fill flag seen. So this is my flag, which basically says the flood fill has gone through this particular grid cell, and it sets that bit, and then it tests it again so that it doesn't go through that cell again. So we need to expand that because each grid cell can contain 2 triangles. Let's see how we can enhance this. So I don't really want just one single list of cells now. What I want is a list of clusters where, or let's call it a list of blocks, where a block or a cluster is a group of cells of the same color, or a group of triangles of the same color. So it's basically a block. What I want to ultimately do is make a set of blocks, or rebuild a set of blocks. You might think, well, I'm dropping blocks onto the grid anyway, why don't I just keep those? But what happens is when they merge together, the 2 blocks of the same color attach. I need to sort of create a different block that's larger and encompasses the complete set of cells. So kind of like this one here, if I just pop that on top, it should merge, and then you won't see the gap between the 2, or the outline as drawn will not go along the gap there. So let's just lose that. Find a window. I'm going to try and speak clearly today. I'm using my lapel mic again, not the one on my face. I tried that earlier. I was listening to see whether or not my hat was causing electronic whine, and I don't think it was, but it's very sensitive. My face mic, very sensitive. And my voice, it kind of has a lot of sibilance to the S's, and it picks up pops and lip smacking and things like that. And I think this is a little bit softer, so I'm going to stick with it for a while. I might, once I earn a bit of money in the next month, get myself one of those external USB mics, something like a Yeti or something like that. You see a lot of people with external mics. Hopefully such a thing will be good enough to pick up my voice, but also configurable so that it won't pick up keyboard chatter and things like that. But they're quite expensive. I didn't want to splash out on one of those without thinking about it a lot first, or even possibly trying one as a test without like spending £80 or whatever they are. Because they're quite a lot of money. So far I've not spent a huge amount of money on all this live streaming. I did buy a new webcam, but that was cheap on Amazon. It was one of their special offers. And I built my hat, but I had the various components for my hat anyway, so I've not spent too much money there. Anyway, back to the flood filling. So we got fill parent. That was just my node parent, wasn't it? So it can remove them all. Fill cells of fill index. So that's the rendering of it. Let's see if we can't do something like fill cells as some kind of array of objects, and each object will be an array of cells which contain the sort of grid data for the triangles. That might give us a bit of a start. So we'll leave these variables in place, but I'm going to reuse them as something else. Just going to cough as well, so I should mute myself when I do that. That's better. It's the tea. I have milky tea, so it makes me want to cough because there's a bit of lactose in it. Right. So do I want to start? I might start another flood fill because I want to keep this example around for a little while and hang on to it. Let's just shift these up and do something with them. Shift away, fill left, yeah. So I'm just going to rename these booleans. Booleans, they're bits, bit flags, aren't they? That's it. So we've got up, fill down, fill left, fill right. Ooh. Fill left, fill right, fill down, and fill up. Right. I think that's all the places they're used. Just watching my JS hint window. Yeah, still working. Good. Okay. I'm just going to copy and paste this for now because I think I might hang on to it and refer to it. Let's just create this. new function. Example flood fill, let's call it cluster flood fill, and make sure I change the call to it. It's in here, that's example flood fill, cluster. Okay. I'm running my chatbot in my window on my top left, or top right of my screen up here that's behind the camera view. So I'm subtly seeing log entries flash up. Actually, no, not the chatbot, my JS gulp watch command, and it's annoying me. I think I'm going to stop that. Let's put a Control-C over that. Let's lose those things. I'm going to use gulp in my iTerm window. Then I can put it to the background. Projects, AquaStax, gulp watch. That's better. I'm gonna have to cough again. Right, back. Okay, let's. So I'll be careful I don't overwrite example flood fill. Let's put a few spaces there. Cluster flood fill, right. So I don't want flag fill scene. I'm going to want var fill flag scene. I'm going to call it scene T1 and T2. T1. In fact, I'll just put these in as additional booleans for now. They won't. The original one won't be needed eventually. Let's make sure I don't use more than 8 booleans, 8 bits here, because then I'll go into the additional areas of the byte. T1 and T2, fill flag scene T1 and T2, right. So what I want to do is for every cell, I need to check the triangle type, and then choose the directions to flood fill up and down, left and right from, based on that triangle type. And I want to pass in something so that whenever the flood fill meets a value that's the same as the one it's just come from, so if a pink cell on one side moves into a pink cell on another, it adds it to the current sort of pink cell cluster definition. So this is what I tried to do a week ago, but failed because I couldn't understand the flood fill properly. Now I've got the flood fill down, hopefully I can modify it to use the so fill. So what I actually want to do is each flood fill has got to check both triangle types within the cell it's got to, hasn't it? So each entry into flood fill has to check both types of triangle within the grid position. It's not both types, it's both T1 and T2 triangle locations. Fill has to check both T1 and T2 triangle locations within the grid position. Yeah. So we might as well just have a loop. So for less than 2, actually I could call it T. That's going to confuse me. T, because it's not T. I suppose I could call it T1 and T2. I've used T1 and T2 as the sort of markers for the bytes or the nibbles within the integer that's defined in the game grid here. So T1 is the triangle within the lower 4 bits, and T2 is the triangle within the upper 4 bits. Okay. But let's, for comparison purposes, shift the bits as necessary into a single variable. So T is going to equal to game grid self.gamegrid grid pos and I want it shifted down by 4 bits. So I want it shifted down by no bits when I is 0, but 4 bits when I is 1. So I want it shifted down by I times 4. And 0f. And then, so that's the T, that's the triangle type. Let's just call, I'll leave it for T now. I'll just comment as a triangle type. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then we want the actual tile number that it comes from. So I suppose. Do I want to call it triangle type? Yeah, triangle type. Then we want its tile number, isn't it? Tile num. And that, I want the value that is, if it's T1, it's got to be shifted down by 24. If it's T2, it's got to be shifted down by 16. So T1 has got to be shifted down by 16. So T1 shifted down by, oh, hi, Stephen22, good to see you. Been chatting away to myself for almost 15 minutes or so here. I'm just trying to expand on my flood fill routine that I created last week so that it works out areas of my grid based on color, not just not just whether or not there's a block has landed within that grid area. Anyway, going nice and slowly. So the tile number is going to be this value, and it's going to be shifted down by 24 bits for t equals 0, but it's going to be shifted down by 16 bits I equals 0, I want it shifted down by 24, and I equals 1, I want it shifted down by 16. That's right. Oh, hi, a couple of people, Kerry and Mo's. Is that Mo Inzerati? Ah, good to see you. So that's going to be I times 16. No, it's I times 8, because I want 24 minus 8 at that instance. All right. Let's do that. And then and 0x0f. Right. Now I could, since I know that just mute myself again. Oh, really sorry. I had a bit of a cough on this evening. Hi. You'll notice I have a little iPad stuck on a bendy gooseneck thing above my monitor here. I'm using it as a mirror, so it can reflect my hat lights back to me, because I can't see them when I'm staring at my screen here. I don't know if somebody chats or if somebody accesses the hat. But I did actually see the flashing then when you said hello. So it's working. Now, I was about to do something sneaky. I know that multiply by 4 is in fact shifted up by 2 bits. So I can just do that, couldn't I? But I'm going to leave it by 4 for now, because it's easier to understand. Right, multiply by 8. That's shifted up by 3 bits. Yeah. So I know the type of the number, and what I want to do is bail out of this particular loop time through the loop if self.gameGrid and fill flag T1 scene or T2 scene so if it's fill flag T1 shifted up by I, so when I is 0 that will test fill flag T1, when I is 1 it will test fill flag T2 implicitly, and does not equal 0. then we just want to continue through the loop. Right, so let's just, if the fill routine has been through this grid cell and triangle location already, bail out, right? Then we want to set that bit. So we want or equals fill flag T1 shifted by I. Right. Then set the cell to render if it's not empty. I suppose we could do, I know what I might do. I might actually, rather than add blocks, I'm going to add individual triangles, right? So what we want to do is set the cell to render if it's not empty. So if triangle type is not 0, set the, and it's not the cell, it's set the triangle to render if it's not empty, right? Set the triangle type. So what we're going to do is we're going to push onto the fill cells the position and the triangle type. So we want grid pos, so grid pos and triangle type. And that's triangle type. Right. Close curly bracket. Actually, I might as well push x. Oh no, we work out x and y up there. That's fine. Now, this logic is going to do a bunch of interesting things, and we need that because that allows us to check the up and down directions, and that doesn't change based on which triangle we're looping over, so we can put that up there. And then we've got this bunch of logic but we want to tweak this to do with the triangle types, I think. All right, and we want to put it here. All right. So this is the general up, down, left, and right. So if we've come from up, take a sip of tea just so I can keep my brain working. What we did before was check to see if we haven't come from the up direction. Now my iPad is plinging or pinging when I get a tweet. I should turn it into do not disturb mode. Let's see, flood fill. What does this mean? If direction from up, so if we haven't come from the above and we're below the top of the grid, we can flood fill up and mark it as coming from the down direction. That's right. Gosh, this was very unusual. I remember at the time thinking this was an unusual way of doing things, and I get confused, but when I tried to change it, it was even more confusing. This is the most succinct way of putting it at the moment, I think. So what do I want to do? If I'm going up to the above grid position, I want to do it only if we have triangle type 2 or 3, because they're the ones that actually have the up connection. So they have a line at the top. So let's do that. So if triangle type equals 2, then we go up. But what I also want to do is I want to make sure I'm passing in the triangle type on the way up. Or no, not the triangle type. I want to pass in the tile num. Okay, so let's pass in tile num as let's do the last parameter. So we call that tile from, tile num from. Okay. Then let's check if we're going to the right. So if we're checking to the right, or the next block to the right, we only want to do so if we've got a type 3 or 4, because they're the only ones that have borders on the right hand edge of the cell. So if triangle type equals 3 or 4, then we go to the right, and we're going to pass in tile num. Then if we're going to the left, we can only do that if it's 1 or 2, because they have the edge on the left, 1 or 2. So that's 1 or 2. And the last one, if we're going down, we want to do 1 or 4. Right. Ooh, and I have to add the tile num. So what this is going to do at the moment is just stick, let's do tile num. Right, so I'm putting the tile number in there, but what I also want to do is bail out of this routine if the tile number doesn't match. So fill the routine has been through this cell and triangle location already, bail out. If the tile num at this location doesn't match tile num from, bail out, because we're only flood filling where we've got tiles of the same color. So if this case of tile num from does not equal tile num, continue. But actually I should bail out there, because I also want to mark that as seen. No, I don't want to mark it as seen if we bail out, I think. There's also, let's have a quick look down here. So what did this do? Somewhere this must have bailed out if it was empty, didn't it? Ah, it's only if it's not empty does it put it into the array. But it still fills up and down. If the tile num at this location doesn't match the tile num, bail out. Okay, I'm going to see what's going to happen. But we want the loop we want to be able to fill a new, basically put stuff in a new block. So what am I doing here? I'm pushing on fill cells, aren't I? Well, I'll do that for now. That's okay. If I loop over, I'm going to clear that out. Fill flag scene T1 or T2. I've got to clear that. Remove all the things. This one here, this flood fill 0, 0 isn't going to do anything, because I think it's just going to bail out because there's no tile num in any direction. what I want to do is actually loop over until I find a particular cell that has a grid cell that has a block in it. So if if game grid I just test the lower byte does not equal 0, then we know there's something in there. So what we're going to do is just do that, but I need to do this, don't I? I've got to do it twice. I could do it once for each triangle in the grid cell. Let's see what we're doing. Do I want to borrow this logic? I'm not sure I do, but does not equal tile num. I might actually do just do a start number or something like that. Yeah, -1. So if tile num from does not equal -1, and it doesn't equal that, then we bail out, right? So that's going to do a bunch of things. Not quite sure what yet. Oh, I also want to break out of here because I only want to kick it off once, and a bunch of JS hint errors. Let's see what it's complaining about. Right, missing semicolon. Okay. I is already defined. Oh yes. Missed the bracket there. That's better, right. So this isn't going to work yet because we're now not, we're pushing something unusual onto filled cells. Let's just grid pos equal fill cells. Yeah, let's just do that. Grid pos dot grid pos. Grid cell. Okay, cell dot grid pos. Cell dot grid pos. And we're just going to stick a try. Actually, that'll still work. So I think at the moment. Let's see what happens. Probably crash. Oh, it didn't crash. Doesn't look like it's drawing anything yet, though. It didn't go into an infinite loop, which is better than I thought it might be. Right, let's see if we can have a look at actually what's in the array once the thing has run. Let's jump here. Nothing at all, so it's not doing anything yet. Let's see if it. Right, so we definitely jumped to there. And what is grid pos? Grid pos is 0. Why is grid pos 0? Because it should be. Yep. I need to pass in I. That's the grid pos. So 0. The directions are all. Yes. Load. Right. So I in this case is 5. Right. So let's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, that's the first position that the block landed. So triangle type, we've got triangle type 2, tile num 0. So we're coming down here. We've definitely seen the first bit. Triangle tab is not equal 0. We bung it into the grid, and then what we're going to do. No, it should be okay. It's going to go left and down, I think, because of triangle type 2. Oh no, left and up. Right. So it's definitely going to go up, yep, and hopefully come straight back, because up is blank. I could actually do a really quick bailout on that if I wanted to. So that's going to loop. Yep. Now we come back up the stack, and it's not going to go right because it's triangle type 2, but it is going to go attempt to go to the left, and that's going to, is that going to fail? I'm not sure. Anyway, I could just keep running that and see what happens. Oh well, actually, it looked like it probably put something there. Let's see. What do I want to check? I kind of want to put these indicators above my blocks, but it's rather awkward because the indicators are attached to something which is on the grid. I wonder if I can change the Z order of the blocks when they land. Maybe I can make them transparent a little bit. Yes. So when the block lands, what I'm going to do, not remove it entirely, I'm just going to go, is that a thing? Set alpha? Draw node, comes from node. Opacity, isn't it? That's what I want. Yeah, set. I'm hoping it's going to be a byte. Doesn't tell me. I'll see if it is. Right, let's just do that. See what happens. So when this lands, didn't do anything. Okay, I think it's actually working, because what I'm seeing is that the red blocks are getting filled in, and if I attach another red block to that one, it will increase the filled area. That's what I was expecting. Just need another red block to do it. Actually, I can fake that, can't I? So why didn't that work? Is it 0.5? Nope, it's not 0.5. What about the block set opacity? It's because it's a draw node, isn't it? Draw nodes work in unconventional ways. I wonder if I can set the Z order. I'm just going to remove it for now. And we can see it. And what I want is random block. I'm going to force this to be 0. So we keep getting triangle blocks falling down. So that worked. The flood fill, and actually it gave me 2 indicators there, because there are 2 triangles on that grid cell. If I do that, that should have. No, it's not going to, because I wonder if I make it just to avoid confusion. I'm going to change the number to my L-shaped block. Where's the init method gone? There it is. New block 0. Which one is it? I think it's 0, 1, 2. Yeah. Dive down there. Right, so we're just going to work with these L-shaped blocks. When one lands there, there should be 2 indicators in every cell, and if I add that, yes, it's flood filling and finding each one correctly. That's good. So now what I want to do is draw the triangles. Draw the triangles properly, so I can see what they are. Right. So draw node, and I can do that. I have a draw try function, don't I? It's not config, it's in globals. So we are draw try. Node XY type color. Excellent. That just works. So aq dot draw try is node XY. Type is going to be cell dot triangle type, and color is going to be tile num, but indexed into my blocks array. So it's going to be aq dot block tile data cell dot tile num dot color. Right. Oh, actually, that's going to be 0, 0. Right. Some tick doing there. There we go. So this, I won't actually see triangles, but I briefly saw them actually because they're rendered one at a time. So it's now and it's now looking like it's a solid color correctly. Right. So if I change this back to 0, which has my triangle on it, I should make some kind of like function that just says only use. That's not. Did that wrong. I wanted that one to be 0. I should make some kind of constant that says if I want to fix it to a particular tile, so I don't have to keep fiddling with that. Actually, I might do that now. So that's indicating there, and it's indicated with the right color as well. If I put that there, it won't continue on, but if I put it there, it will. Let's do that. Excellent, right? That won't, because it's not properly attached. Right. I think that's working. If I put other ones on, they won't attach. But now what I want to do is make sure that it actually checks all of the blocks in the grid. Of course, now I've got another one that's lower down. It's going to find that. Yeah. Right. Let's go back and have a see what else I can do. So what I want to do here is basically continue this loop, don't I? Oh, actually, I was going to bail out quick. I think if the flood fill, if game grid pos, basically if there's no triangle in there, we just disappear straight out, don't we? If game grid pos ff equals 0, return. Or Or is that what I'm doing here? I might have to count the number of times this function recurses, because I'm not sure that I want to do that. Basically, what I want it to be able to do is go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 times through to find any cell, any cluster, but not go across the whole grid needlessly. But I'll worry about that when it's doing what I want it to do, and then we'll see how far, whether it's going too far. Right. So here, so basically we want to loop over if game grid is not 0, then we go in. But I think that's going to be, oh, hi, live video support, good to see you. I think that's going to need to do it twice, once for every triangle within the cell, and then continue on when it finds one that doesn't have one in it. Or do I? Or the other option is that I make sure that something, I mean, that when these cells are seen, I'm flagging them. So let's just borrow this. I'm not keen on borrowing this bit of code, a bit of copying and pasting, but we'll see. Here I want it, right. Gonna have to use another variable. Gonna use t. Flood fill, and it's I is the location, direction from, and tile from is going to be tile num. Right. But only if the t flag seen is equal to 0. So only if it's not seen already, that's got to be t, isn't it? Do we start the flood fill from this point? And if we're doing this, this outer loop is the first time where we're going to see each new cluster of cells. So what we want is, I do need to, can't bail out early if it's 0 because I need to mark this as seen, don't I? Why do I want to create a loop in the game? Well, I'm looping over each grid cell in order to see whether or not I want to start flood filling to find the all of the tiles that match that color. What the generic flood fill I had before was just looping over the entire grid in one go, picking cells that were either filled or not. What I'm trying to do now is expand it so that the flood fill routine will just find all the cells of the right color that are attached to each other. That's the important bit, they've got to be attached. So that was this logic here, to make sure it only goes in the directions that the attachments, or the triangles have edges. Let's see. There's a lot of loops. And I keep coming up with the thought that my data structure for the grid is very complicated, but it's reusing what I used to use in my old game. I'm remaking my old game, and back when memory was scarce on small mobile phones, we had to pack everything into bits and bytes. So my grid structure is just a large integer array, hence the shifting of the positions and the andings and things like that. But I'm slowly getting there. Let's just see. I'm going to just remove that as well. Anyway, what I wanted to do was fill cells is actually going to be an array of arrays. So let's see, fill cells. Because I want to, each time this particular function gets called, I want to start a new cluster or a new group of cells. How do I define that? It's got to be, I've got a fill index here. What's that doing? Oh, that's just that's the index that loops over for the rendering. I could use fill cells. Fill clusters. Let's see, or fill groups. I quite like the word groups actually. That's a bit simpler than clusters. What I'm going to do is add fill groups. And fill groups gets created down here. And each time through this loop, I'm going to push a new entry onto fill groups. So let's create a but now I'm thinking it's going to create two groups every time it hits a square with two triangles that are the same color in it. Okay, might be okay still. I'll try and follow this bit through to the end and see if it works. I have a horrible feeling it's going to go wrong though. Basically, I just want to do fill group. Let's see, fill groups. So new group, just want an object. And then actually new group tile num colon tile num. So we'll do that. Self.fillgroups.push new group, and we pass new group in. I'm going to pass it in there because it actually defines the tile num inside new group. So tile num from, I'm going to call that group from. Tile num from equals group from dot tile num, and each time we end up going through, we just pass group from down the flood fill recursive call. So now I'm not actually doing actually new group, and what we want is cells, and that's an array. And in here, I don't want fill cells anymore. I want this bit here, I want group from dot cells dot push. So we want to add in, and I don't actually care about the tile num anymore because they're all the cells, or all these little objects that we push onto the cells array will be all the same tile num. So now in here, render filled cells. So I want to loop over each group. Fill groups, yes. Fill cells is no longer used. Where was it used? Set the cell to render if it's not in. Oh, this is my excuse me, gonna cough again. Very foggy throat tonight. A froggy throat. That's what I meant to say. Right. I'm going to confuse myself. I'm going to get rid of flood fill, example flood fill in a minute. It'll still be there in the source control. Then I don't need to worry about fill cells anymore. Yeah, get rid of that. So if fill groups and fill index is greater than, yeah. So this one's just got to be a loop now. So for I equals 0, I is less than self dot fill groups I dot cells I plus plus. Cell equals self dot fill groups I cells. No, it's fill groups fill index, isn't it? Gosh. Let's do that there. Hang on, so fill groups, so we're going to loop over fill groups. And then for each fill group, we're going to loop over the cells. That's right. Cells.length, and then that's going to be cells I, and each cell has a grid pos and a triangle type, and the color actually comes out of the group, doesn't it? So color is going to be self.fillgroups dot, actually it's not color, it's cell. What do I call it? Tile num, isn't it? Tile num. Tile num. Color equals that. Cell tile num color. Right. If this works, I'm going to be very surprised. Ooh, a few warnings here. Let's see. Missing semicolon. I've got a bracket there, didn't need. Right. Triangle type defined but not used. Why is that? Fair enough, yeah, we're just looking at what else? T is not defined. Grid pos not defined. It's grid pos is I, isn't it? In this case. Ooh. And fill flag scene is defined but never used. Yes, because got rid of that. I can actually set that to 10 and 11 now. Right. Let's see what happens if I drop that down there. So that still worked. It still created a cluster, which is good. Now, hopefully, if I drop one down somewhere else, it should create another cluster. It did. Blimey. I'm surprised that's working as well as I could have hoped. Gosh, let's stick on that on its point, because that should create a third cluster. Yes, let's put that there. Well, let's break point into here, see if we actually have three clusters, or three groups. Let's break point in render filled cells. Let's put that there. So what do we have? We have self.fill groups. Can I fill groups? There's two objects in it. Ooh, okay. Maybe it's only two because of that point. I expected that to be one. And that one, and that one, and that separate one. Let's try making them separate, distinctly separate. So we have one. So now fill groups is definitely one, yeah, with cells being 9. So that's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Cells being triangles, in fact. So there's 9 triangles. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, let's make another distinct group there. Okay, so actually we're hitting this function twice because it's looping each game tick. Another one. So now we should have 3 fill groups. Yes, definitely got 3 fill groups. The last one should have 3 cells in it. Fill groups to 3 cells, yes. And we've got the grid position and the triangle type. And the tile num, they're all tile num zeros because that's what I'm doing at the moment. Okay, so why? There's probably some additional checking that needs to happen. I'm expecting. Well, actually, maybe I don't worry about this too much at the moment. The reason I'm not worrying is because if a pointy block falls on a cluster like that, it should break. So the cluster should break and the pointy block. So we're never going to have that scenario in the game, although there might well be times when it could end up like that after a set of a stack has been broken and collapsed. So maybe I should think about it. See, I'm expecting if I hit there, I'm expecting 4 groups, but it looks like there's only 3. That first group, the one nearest bottom left, has got 15 cells in it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So it does include that pointy block. So what I've got to think about is when moving up from a cell, I have to test a particular triangle type. Yeah, that's what I've got to do. What time is it? 9:04. Ooh, I'm going to have to stop soon. But I'm on a bit of a roll, so let's keep going just until things go horribly wrong. Basically, what I was doing here is if the tile number at this location doesn't match, bail out. But we've also got to bail out if the cell, the triangle, if it does match, but it's a particular type. So for example, if we've come from the cell below into a cell so that the direction from is passed in as up, if it's a triangle 2 or 3, we've got to bail out because 2 or 3s don't actually have their bottom edges solid, so they shouldn't be part of any cluster. So let's add that in. That shouldn't be that difficult. So I think check for appropriate triangle type given the direction of filling. So if let's let's just do one of these. If direction from and let's do what's my order of direction? I do up, right, left, and down. Okay, so if it's fill up does not equal 0. So if we've come from below and we're filling up, is that correct? Yes, I think so. Maybe like here. Oh no, it's the direction from. So actually, the direction from is up. Then we want to check that it's a 1 or a 4. We bail out. And triangle type equals 1 or 4, then bail out. And I want to stick that in brackets. So if we've come from up, right, then we want to bail out if it's a 1 or a 2, because they don't have anything on the right hand edge. If we've come from upright, left, then we want to bail out if it's a 3 or 4. And up, right, left, and down. We want to bail out. If we come from below, we want to bail out for 2 or 3. 2 or 3. Right. Let's see what that does. Hopefully it won't go into infinite loop. Oh, I had some errors there. Oh no, I didn't. Right. Stick a block right there. Just continue. So we've got 3 distinct blocks. Now if I put one there, I should end up with 4. Fill groups. Ooh, loads. That's not quite what I expected. Okay. This could be the problem I suddenly thought I might have had, but I wasn't paying attention to it. Let's do this. Let's put 1 block down and another one. What do I end up with? So fill groups are, we've got 4. So we've got one with 2 triangles in it. Grid pos 2. That's unusual. Grid pos 2. Then we've got another one, grid pos 3, but it's missed the linking there somehow. Let's see what it's doing. So we've already got, okay, we've got fill groups, so that one worked, okay. That one worked okay. But now we've got 4. Confused. So 1 block down by itself got 1 fill group, which is what I would expect, with 3 entries in it. 3 triangles. Oh, hi Tina-kun, good to see you. Lots of people coming and going, but not quick enough to be recognised by my bot Tim. and welcomed with the graphics. If you do follow me, by the way, you'll get a nice firework effect in the corner of the screen there, and my hat will respond, I hope. Let's see if the hat is still responding. Hat Cylon. Oh yep, that's still going. Excellent. Anybody can control the hat. Do feel free to have a play. So where were we? Now I'm expecting 2 fill groups, but I've got 3. So it's got that first one as okay, but that one is round the wrong way. Oh, I wonder if it's. I just reload. I just put one down upside down like that. What does that give me? That gives me 2 straight away. That seems to imply I might have made a mistake here somewhere. So if fill is up, so if it's from the up direction, from above, we want to bail out if it's 1 and 4. If it's from the right direction, we want to bail out if it's 1 and 2. If it's from the left direction, we bail out if it's 3 and 4. And if it's from the down direction, we bail out if it's 2 and 3. No, that's okay. Maybe it's not bail out though. Maybe it's do it after we've marked the grid flag as seen. I bet that's something to do with it. No, because if we're not including it in this cluster, then we don't want to mark it as seen because it'll get missed on another run or on another loop. Direction from fill up, right, left and down. So why is that missing something then? Oh, is it looping over twice and doing something down here, I wonder? I wonder if it is. Yeah, I'm wondering what's going on there. Might just leave that for now. We're getting on a bit. I'm going to actually just put my new block function back to truly random. Just have a look at what's going on. It should now actually draw the grid in some way that makes sense as I land blocks. Yeah, it's kind of doing it. So the flood feeling is working to some degree, but it's not quite getting what I hoped yet. But it's certainly finding the right blocks and allocating them the right triangle types and things. So if I change the rendering so it wasn't rendering them iteratively, like you see the flash, that's where it's going through, looping over the fill index. It's this bit here. It's only calling this, so it's basically rendering one block every update, one cluster every update. They would pop in instantly, and then if I drew an outline around them, then the grid would look correct. So I'm getting there. Just got to work out why the clustering seems to be slightly overzealous at the moment, and thinking things are grouped when, or thinking things aren't grouped when they should be. Can I slot that in place? Yeah. That flash is a bit disconcerting now, actually, isn't it? Let's see if I can't fix that. Let's actually no, I'm going to leave that. It's working well enough that I'm quite happy with that. Oh, hi Zenol, good to see you. One or two people joining. Just about to finish my stream now, I think. That's working well enough that it's actually, for a Tuesday night, that's pretty good for me. Usually on a Tuesday night, I end up with a bunch of code that I throw away on Thursday afternoon, My next stream is going to be Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. UK time. Our clocks haven't changed yet. I had a Skype call with a colleague in Canada earlier on today, and he misjudged the fact that the Canadian clocks have changed, but the English ones haven't yet for daylight saving time. So he was in a bit of a hurry because he'd misjudged how long he had for the call. But pretty certain that you'll have to check if your clocks have changed. You'll have to look at whatever 3 p.m. UK time is on Thursday. It's getting there. I quite like that draw effect. I was going to use that. It's getting slow now. It's drawing lots of blocks because it's fixed speed, so it only renders one every. Oh, am I going to slot that in there? I thought I might be able to slot that in, but oh, I can. But it landed. Right, enough of that. Let's double check that nothing is left. I got rid of the flags that I don't care about anymore. I shifted those up. Let's just neaten that out. I had a friend who was religiously careful about aligning his equal signs all over the place. He would have to have fixed these ones as well. And any longer variable names that came into to existence would have to shift everything across. Luckily with SlickEdit, actually, I can do something quite cool. I can just do a block select like that, and I can hit Shift F7 and F8 to move things along, and then Control U to undo. So there's a couple of useful things there for aligning columns. Where are we? So we got rid of the old flood fill, example flood fill, but it's still in GitHub. This is my new one, which is called cluster flood. I'm going to call it group flood fill. Cluster. Just going to call it group because that was what I was using as my noun. Render filled cells, right, that's fine. Triangles. Oh, I will actually just, I closed Chrome, didn't I? I was just going to double check that those indicator cells or nodes will get removed appropriately at the end of each 16. So if I drop this one, that 20 is the number of nodes being rendered in the scene. It should go up by 2 plus whatever the next blocks to fall down is, 2 being triangles. 22. So it went up by. Actually no, each block is a node by itself. And where I'm rendering one of those, am I rendering triangles? Oh no, it should be a node per cell. Yeah, it should be a node per triangle. Why didn't that go up by more then? Interesting. 22, now it's 25. 22, 23, 24, 25, that's kind of what I would have expected. It's close enough. It's not going up by huge numbers. That was my main concern, that it wasn't freeing up the nodes properly, but where they're all parented off of a parent node, each time a block lands, the call to remove all children clears the whole lot up, so that's fine. I'm going to commit this to GitHub now. Thanks very much for watching me today. I do appreciate it. One or two of you have been hanging around for a while. Carrie and Stephen22, I think. Let's see. Yep. Commit. Let's say. So we put a new flood fill that groups cells together by color or tile num. Tile num using the grid data. Also renders these with triangles. Oh, it's getting too late in the day. My typing and fingers are getting lazy, so I'm making typos Also renders these with triangles so the grid looks correct after each block lands. Oh, and each block is removed when it lands as well. That bit of code is now in there completely, so I'll leave that in. Yep. Also renders these triangles so the grid looks correct after each block lands. Note the grouping code isn't quite right yet, and creates more groups than is necessary, more groups than it should. I don't think it's creating redundant. They're not redundant. So the number of groups it's creating is okay, but it's not grouping them all together correctly yet. It creates more groups than it should. And actually, before I commit that, I'm going to just update my refactor. What's the date? The 14th of March. Build upon the flood fill routine to iterate over blocks, taking the count of the triangle points. Ongoing group the blocks, grouping the blocks together results in more groups than it should. Fix this. Okay. If I cancel that, include that in the commit, I can just do that, can't I? It remembers the comment. Excellent. There we go. Commit and push. Right. Okay. How many lines of code have we got now? 2012. That doesn't seem like many. I'm sure I had more than that before. Maybe I've got rid of a few lines. Anyway. Also, there doesn't seem many for having been streaming for about 5 months now. September, October, November, December, January, February, more than that, almost 7 months. But I'm only doing it an hour or so a week, or 2 hours a week, 2 streams a week. Let's get rid of those. Actually, I'll leave that sitting there for now. I think that's good enough for me to call it a day. Thanks very much indeed for watching, much appreciated. I'm going to have my hat do a rainbow. Yeah, there it goes. And I shall see you on Thursday afternoon, 3 PM. Thanks again for watching. And do follow me on liveedu.tv if you want to be notified when I stream again. And that's enough for me. Thanks a lot.